Moving on. Well, we've had some great college football talk yesterday, and we're continuing that here today and a little bit more up on it. But now we're focusing up and into the Big 12 because we know Arizona State, they made it into the college football playoff, but there is still some action that's going on, at least with the Big 12, and it'll be exciting to see what this team in particular. So, talking more about Kansas State from here, Christian Rauh joins the show. So the Big 12 was really interesting last season because, I mean, you got Arizona State, who ended up representing for the Big 12 and, with the conference bid and such. And then there were a couple teams mixtures that were kind of surprises. Kansas came in and they started, spoiling everybody's hopes of making the playoffs. And so when I look at Kansas State, I've always respected their program. I think they've got some very good players. And I think, to the extent, if they keep up with the competition that they have in the Big 12, I think they've got some pretty good, bright futures amongst them and be competitive for the next few years. What did you take in from last season? Because ending it with a bowl game victory as well, is there kind of something that now the expectation is a little bit different now for Kansas State this year?
Well, the expectation's got to get to be over that 8-win hump. Going 8-4 2 years in a row just obviously needs to change. But if you look back at the season as a whole, I mean, it was Avery Johnson's first year at quarterback. It was him learning to be the quarterback after Will Howard, who, by the way, went to Ohio State and won a national championship. So you go from that moment, and he starts off strong. He starts off 7-1. And then the wheels fall off against Houston, and a team that you didn't think the wheels would fall off against. It happens against the Houston Cougars. Then they fall against Arizona State, who nobody had that on their bingo card. I mean, the Big 12 media days, we ranked them in the polls at the very bottom. We ranked them last to finish in the Big 12 their first year into the conference. And they wind up winning the whole thing and just being a fourth and 13 away from beating Texas in the college football playoffs. So that's where I see Kansas State right now. I mean, you start really strong, the wheels fall off, you finish 8-4, but that bowl game that they had against Rutgers in the Rate Bowl was impressive. They started off weak. It was the complete flip side of how the season went. They started weak, they had an amazing comeback victory, and all the momentum this offseason has really carried into what should be a really good game to start the college football season in week 0 against Iowa State. It should be a really good game, and I think Kansas State's going to shock a lot of people this season.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think honestly with just the build, because again, I mean, watching Will Howard and then just seeing with where this team is going, yeah, I mean, if they could get over that hump and if they could get 2 more wins this upcoming season, I think they'd be in very, very good shape. So looking at the college football season, because I talked about this last night with a guest of mine, and it's really going to be fun to watch because I love college football. It's very tribal, and people are just they are so invested in it. And now with the college football playoff, now it's no longer conference bid mattering where you rank up at because you're going to have the 4 best teams. And then 5 through 12, they're going to have to work up the ladders if they want to get into the big dance of the national championship. So looking at that, and when they made that adjustment, I mean, this is anybody's ball game at this point. If they really want to prove to themselves, they want to be in here. I think I've always said this. It's like your invitation to the Met Gala. You get your free drink ticket, you come in and you're hanging out with the best of the best that's been there and done that and has won championships. Could that be something that's inspiring and motivating Kansas State to get those extra wins and shoot for their case to maybe make it in at some point?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you look at Kansas State as a whole, not just college football, but as a whole, they don't have a national championship.
Yeah.
Kansas State is looking for their first national championship basically as a university. So getting to not only the college football playoffs, but getting to the national championship is obviously a goal. And of course, all 134 teams can say the same exact thing. But I think it means a little bit more when you are a team that has gone through a great coaching past and program past with Bill Snyder and then immediately go into Chris Kleiman, who is really doing a great job filling the shoes of arguably one of the best college coaches of all time. Not the best, but one of the best. And I think he is definitely deserving of a top 10 all-time ranking in college football as Bill Snyder. When I look at Kansas State, I look at them not only as a program that can develop talent, and then unfortunately you see them go to other schools, Big Ten, SEC. We just saw it last year in national championship. But this year, especially with the whole new straight seeding, which I do like, but don't get used to because in 2026 they're going to wind up changing it again and going to 16 teams, and it's going to be crazy. We'll see what happens with that portion. But when I look at Kansas State this year, I look at Avery Johnson, obviously the main player in this one. Quarterback, when you look at it, that's the easiest thing to say. I get it. It's not a cop out. It's just exactly what it is. Avery Johnson is going to be the backbone of this team. He had a huge spring. I think he really took this team on his back. Not only is he just the player that was going to be, the first year quarterback, he is now going to be the leader of this team in his second full season as the starting quarterback at Kansas State. In spring, they focused on strength more than the spring practices. A lot of players really focused on their strength and conditioning. The entire program gained over 700 pounds of muscle. I mean, that's a huge number to think about when you're thinking of an entire program. But Avery Johnson was one of those main attractions when you're talking about adding speed and size. He looks great. Best shape of my life season, absolutely. But he is in the 23 mile an hour club as well. So a dual threat quarterback who can run the speeds up to 23 miles an hour joins his running back pair of Dylan Edwards, who, I mean, if you followed the Coach Prime year in the first year, all the people getting excited in national media saw Dylan Edwards in his freshman season. He's back at Kansas State being RB1 for the first time in his collegiate career. I'm really excited about this offense, Jake. I really do think that this is a team that can really shock the world. And it's exciting that they get to do it on a national stage before anybody else gets to. Week 0, Iowa State versus Kansas State in Dublin, Ireland. It is the first college football game on the schedule, on the docket. There's no other game. It's a standalone game. And I think Kansas State gets the proven message before anybody else gets to.
So I like with what I saw from DJ Giddens, and I do think
Yeah.
that the Colts are really going to get a good rotational piece in that running back room. So with Giddens now up and in the pros, is there somebody? Because I know I think Kansas State, looking at the Big 12 and their type of play, they like to mix things up a bit. So they like to incorporate some pass plays and then at the same time work in the trenches, much like a heavier style like what the Big Ten is always used to because it's more trench warfare, it's more ground and pound, and it's physical. Is there anybody that catches your eye right now that could be a big X factor in the run game to help with Kansas State, especially for some of those important games against tough defenses this upcoming season?
Yeah, look, DJ Giddens is going to be a tough shoe to fill. There's no doubt about that. He ran for over 1,300 yards last year. He had 2 games over 180 yards against Big 12 opponents, Oklahoma State and Colorado, a Colorado team that at one point was fighting for the college football playoffs. You got a big shoe to fill. There's no doubt about it. And I don't know if you fill it with just one person. I think, go ahead, Moneyball reference here. I think you take care of it in the aggregate. I think you do that. And the way you do that is through, I think, 3 different players on this roster. One of them I already mentioned, Dylan Edwards. He's fast. He's speedy, already in the 23 mile an hour club, really good at running for the off tackles. I think you can use him not only in the backfield, but in screens and motions, you name it. I think he's what I like to call a game wrecker or a home run hitter. He's one of those guys where you're looking for that big play. Dylan Edwards is that guy. And I do think he's going to break out this season. And then you have 2 other players on the roster that I think really just fit the game perfectly. I think Chris Kleiman did a really good job filling his roster when it came to finding fit. Maybe not the top end talent. You're not talking about maybe 5-star recruits or that case, but we're talking about fit here. And I think that was really important for him to add. Joe Jackson, I think, does a really good job at doing that, fitting the additions with Dylan Edwards. And then Antonio Martin was a late spring transfer portal pickup coming over from the FCS. And he's one of those guys that is just a big dude. I mean, I heard one source call him the thick guy. Like he's just a big dude. And when you talk about the speediness of Dylan Edwards, a goal line short yardage threat of Antonio Martin could wind up being the guy that you love the most. But overall, I don't think you're going to see one person that takes over DJ Giddens, just to answer your question in the long form here. But I think you're going to be able to find 3 players that really get you excited for. And I could make the argument because of that, they have the best running back room in the Big 12.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And speaking of it with Avery Johnson as the quarterback, because of course you look at some of the weapons that he has. I look at, Jace Brown and what you
Mhm.
can provide me with how he's looking at, and building up to his stature because he almost had, 1,000 receiving yards and he had 5 scores. is there going to be potentially a big jump with him this upcoming season to really kind of give him that reliable target for Avery Johnson to target at this upcoming season?
I'm going to go two ways here. I think he makes a step forward, but maybe not on the stat sheet. And here's why. One, they have a new offensive coordinator, technically, with Matt Wells. Connor Riley heads out to be the new offensive line coach of the Dallas Cowboys, and they shared the co-offensive coordinator spot last year. Matt Wells, former Utah State coach, former Texas Tech coach, is now going to be the offensive coordinator, the sole offensive coordinator for Kansas State this season. What he has done in the past as an offensive coordinator, when he is the guy at the helm, or just as a head coach, especially at Utah State, there is a quarterback that plays in the NFL right now named Jordan Love. He was their quarterback
Yep.
that under the Matt Wells system, and he was very good with play action. We still see that with him in Green Bay. He did that really good at Utah State. If he can find a way to excel and break Avery out of his shell a little more, because there were some issues with Avery's game last year. I'm not blind to the fact that there were some issues with Avery Johnson's game, especially towards the end. I will put a little caveat on that and say I do think that he was injured, not 100%, especially after that Colorado game. But if Matt Wells can open him up, I think that helps out Jace Brown getting some of those big time plays, making sure that he, gets the love and gets fed. I do think he is still wide receiver one on this team. The biggest thing that Kansas State got this year was retention in the portal, Jake. They saved so many players going. I thought Jace Brown was leaving. There was rumors a day before the bowl game that he was planning to enter the portal. There was all this stuff happening on social media. He squashed it like an hour before the game against Rutgers, and then he wound up having a good game. I think he scored the first touchdown of the Rate Bowl, if I remember. He scored once. I can't remember if it was the first touchdown. If he excels, great. I don't think he'll get 1,000 yards though, because I think the wide receiver room is better for Avery Johnson. You're talking about the running back room, who's already strong. Avery Johnson, who I think is going to run a lot more as well, especially with this play action if it opens up. But some of these other receivers that came in the transfer portal, you're talking Jared Bradley, former from Texas Tech and from Boston College, and Jared Tibbs, a former player from Purdue, who was arguably probably the best wide receiver on that really bad Purdue team, but they bring in size. 6'4", 6'5". That's something that Kansas State has not had in quite some time, if ever. And now you're dealing with Avery Johnson, who had some issues when it came to throwing accuracy towards the end of the season. Well, if you have a target share towards 6'4", 6'5" receivers, that's going to really clean that self up itself. So Jace Brown, I still call my wide receiver one, but I don't know if he's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver, but I don't think that changes how good he's going to be. I think he's an NFL talent still.
No, I agree. I mean, watching his route tree and what he's going to potentially bring to the table, and hopefully he comes in a big way for this
Yeah.
upcoming season and be that wide receiver that a lot of teams scouting, they're going to absolutely want a part of their roster to really bolster up the arsenal on the offense. So really
And he's
excited.
just like Dylan Edwards too when it comes to the speed. He might not have hit that 23-mile-an-hour club that we like to talk about this year,
Yeah.
but in the Rate Bowl, Matt Wells, for the first time, really had the helm of the play calling. We saw a lot of jet sweeps that involved Jace Brown as well. So you might not just see him as a deep threat receiver, but you're going to see him get a lot of explosive plays, maybe off the tackle or off the end in some jet sweeps. So, man, like I said, you should be really excited for this offense this year, and you get a first taste before anybody else does in Dublin.
Man, can't wait to see it this upcoming season. Christian, appreciate you for coming on by, man. Thank you for giving your insights with Kansas State. Where can people find more of your content here? We're locking on with the Wildcats.
Yeah, gotta love it. Lockdown Kansas State, your daily Kansas State Wildcats podcast. You can find it anywhere you listen to podcasts on YouTube, or you can find me on Twitter at Lockdown K State.
There you go. Cannot wait for the up and coming college football season, man. I'm so excited about it. I think it's going to be bigger and better than what we got from last year with the experiment of the 12-team playoff, and now it's going to be even better. Appreciate you for stopping on by, Christian. Enjoy the Friday and the weekend, and we'll see you very soon.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks.
Absolutely. All right, we ain't stopping there. The gas pedal, we are still stuck on it. And this time, we're going to be talking a lot of some NBA talk, and one in particular.